And do
Hmm.
you credit Cold Stone for like your monster forearm muscles that you use to like swing from ring to ring?
It started, yeah, that's where it started. Because like I did that for 2.5 years. I was, just doing the at the end of
Double
the day, I
scoops.
pumped up. I'm like, I couldn't move anything. But yeah,
Col-
like it was a lot. And I noticed at the end of my time there, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, I can see the veins in my arms. All right,
yeah,
I'm
Cold
about to work
Stone.
that again.
Being a Cold Stone ice cream, is it ice cream chef? Is that what they call you?
I don't know what they called us. I think we were just employees, just just
It's
another
like
brick in the wall.
it's like low temp hibachi for beefcakes. You know what I mean? Hello and welcome to Growing Up Christian. I'm Casey, and Sam is not with me at the moment. He was involved in an accident. He was piloting a small Zeppelin somewhere near the Canadian border, and I say Zeppelin. It was actually it's a Mylar balloon shaped like SpongeBob that just has a lawn chair riding underneath. And he was shot down by an F-35. So I'm sure he's fine. He'll be back, almost guaranteed. But I just wanted to jump in and say hey and tell you a little bit about our guest this week, Josh Wagg, or as you might know him as the Death Metal Ninja. So Josh is a former and current contestant on American Ninja Warrior, and he's a pretty interesting guy. So he reached out to us a little while ago, saying he liked the podcast and told us a little bit about himself and how he'd been competing in this on this show. It was funny because he after we finished recording the episode, he had found us because he saw my wife April's episodes that she did for with us, because she's done a couple of things with us. He was following her page and found us through that. So we're talking after the show, and he's like, "So, how do you guys know April Gloria?" I'm like, "Oh, well, she lives here." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, she's my wife. We're married." So it was kind of funny. But Josh is an interesting dude. He grew up kind of in the ministry. His family was sort of in and out of the ministry, mostly in. They did a stint in the mission field in Venezuela, and then came back, and his dad worked with a church in Fort Collins. Things kind of went south. It was a little ugly. We get into all of that, and then he tells us a little bit about how he got into doing American Ninja Warrior. He also does like a bunch of fitness training and a bunch of other things. In fact, he's got a link tree. I'll put a link in the description to it so you can see, but he does a number of different things, sponsorships. He's got merch, and just like in the past week here, he got confirmation that he's going to be on this next season of American Ninja Warrior. And so you get to see him again. You'll know him by he's got the full on death metal corpse paint on when he's running the obstacle course. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, very cool guy, fun to talk to. Great episode. I think you'll laugh along with us at some of this stuff. And yeah, it's a good time. If you like the show, leave us a review wherever you listen to it. Share it with a buddy. That is, we're always surprised at like how many people listen to the show, and I mean, we really haven't. I mean, how do you advertise for a podcast? I mean, it basically is all just kind of word of mouth and stuff like that. So appreciate you guys and all you've all the times that you've shared the show and showed us to other people and written reviews. All great. Thank you very much. And if you want to jump in on the conversation, talk to us directly and some other really cool people that have been through a lot of the same or, more horrific things, you can join our Discord. So you'll find a link to that in our link tree. Check our Instagram bio and you can get to it from there. We've had quite a few new joinees lately, so it's fun to meet some new people and welcome them into the fold, and you know, dump the memes out of their phones, hold it by the ankles, and just shake them out. So, all that being said, I hope you enjoy this episode and our conversation with Josh Wagg.
All right, everybody, we are back with our guest, Josh. What's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here. How are y'all doing?
Doing well, dude.
Doing good.
This will come out quite after the holidays, but
Yeah.
as of right now, we're all gearing up for them, I suppose.
Yep. I'm right next to my Christmas tree. I got as much done as I could this week, and that's, all you can do.
What does the death metal ninja ask for Christmas? Like spiked pauldrons and white and black paint?
Yeah, I asked for the little like armbands that have spikes all over it, collars
Perfect.
and stuff. No, I hate asking for anything. I'm not that type of person, and when someone asks me, I'm like, I don't know, just nothing. Please don't make me uncomfortable.
I feel like everybody hates asking for things, but some people seem okay with like letting you know that they don't like what you got.
Oh yeah. As soon as they get something that they like, they didn't tell you not to get them, but they knew in their head that they didn't want that. But as soon as you get it, they're like,
yeah.
No.
That old rule of like repeating, like just saying what it is, like, oh, maxi pads.
Thanks.
I like the people that go out of their way to make sure that like what they want, just in case you were thinking of getting something. Like there's no reason for that person to get you something, but it's like just in case, one of the things I really want.
Oh my god, that's so like far gone for me. I try not to be around those kind of people.
Yeah.
What?
I genuinely find Christmas. Well, okay. If my wife listens to this, she'll just murder me right afterwards. But it's like, because there's no reason for me to find it stressful. I'm definitely fall into the stereotypical dad who doesn't do a lot of it. And by a lot, I mean pretty much any of it. But it's bad. It feels really, I don't feel great about airing that one out for the public consumption. But
it's easy to feel better about it. I mean, you can just like do some of it.
Yeah.
Like I'll have to like even getting a gift. So my siblings and I do like a swap. We just pull a name out of a hat. Well, we don't really use a hat. We use the internet to randomly assign people like normal people. But
yeah,
I'm like, I cannot, even for my siblings, I'm like, I've known you guys my entire life and I don't know what to get any of you.
Yeah, that's what I was just going through. Like, I'll think I have ideas, and then the more that I kind of like let them fester in my brain, I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. So more and more time passes. We get closer and closer to Christmas. I'm like, gift cards. That's what we got. All right.
Yep.
I have a few rules for gift giving, and I feel like I think these are solid, and anybody could use these. Okay.
Only give guns.
Only give.
And our memberships.
I was gonna say, if it's a dude, you can always get him a knife. Like nobody's ever opened a knife and they're like, like you could give me the worst knife in the world and I'd be like, okay,
presents with it. Why not?
Yeah, this will be my master bathroom knife.
Just in
the
case.
Other rule is like you look at what the person buys themselves and you just buy them the most ridiculous version of it that they would feel guilty buying, like
such as like, do you have a
example? If somebody, could be anybody, likes eyeshadow per se, you just buy them a ridiculous eyeshadow palette that's super expensive that he or she might feel guilty buying themselves, and it's bound to be an idea,
though. That's actually pretty solid.
It's like one of my siblings, I'm like, I'm pretty sure the only thing I know that you spend money on is video games. So I'm not sure how I could apply that logic there.
Madden 2016.
Yeah.
From like 8 years ago. I got you Madden 2002.
Yeah.
The one that GameStop will pay you to take.
Yeah.
Like, please, we have like 8,000 of them. Just take it.
I'm pretty sure they're like insulating their walls with copies of like Madden and NBA 2K, 4K, whatever that is now.
Just thousands of copies. They could not get rid of them quick enough.
That's great.
So where are you joining us from?
I am in Orlando, Florida. I'm really close to Disney, actually. I'm maybe 5 minutes away from Epcot.
Oh, do you get?
Now-
Are you a season pass guy at Disney?
I'm in a way. So my girlfriend actually works full time at Disney. She works at the boardwalk. So
Okay.
she gets her passes, and then for some reason I get a spousal pass. I'm not married to her or anything, but I get like 18 visits a year or something like that. So it kind of works, and I'm not the biggest Disney guy ever. It's fun to go every now and then, but I think I'm just around it too much.
Not
when
a
you're
Disney
training
adult.
for obstacle courses,
No. Oh my
you're
God.
living on turkey legs from Epcot or something, right?
Oh my God. Epcot's great. Love Epcot. I could go there and spend a whole day there, but any other park, I'm like 2 hours and I'm ready to go home. Like, just get me out of there. Like, I can have a good time for a couple hours, but if I go with people that are Disney adults, like some of our friends were there for like 10, 12 hours, and it's just stops being fun.
Dude, 18 passes a lot too. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'm sure there's someone who's just like, it's not enough. They like get halfway through the year and they're like, I'm already out. What am I supposed to do? Pay for
I
it?
went to Epcot like 6 times last week. I don't know what to do with myself.
Dude, trying to explain Disney World though to people who haven't been before,
Oh my God.
or like people who have only been to Disneyland.
Yes.
It's like a county.
Oh
It's
my God.
literally-
Yeah.
It's a city. It's like 4 cities in Florida that are all just like straight Disney, head to like top to bottom.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
It really
it's all
is.
like it's repurposed swamp. So that's literally what it is. When Walt Disney was getting ready to build this park, it was all swampland. Like, there was just nothing there. So he bought all of this swampland, turned it into literally just like you could drive 20 minutes and still be in Disney. Any direction. Like, they have their own McDonald's, they have their own gas stations that they charge like 40 cents extra a gallon. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah, it's
God.
always the day after 9/11 at Disney World.
I don't even know what that means.
I was gonna say, in what
It
regard?
was like $20 a gallon gas,
Oh, okay. I was
Hey,
thinking about maybe the way they feel about people from the Middle East, or
I'm sure there was a fair bit of profiling that went on at Disney World, like for the next 10 years. Like,
no, I mean Aladdin. Come on, dude. That was like
Come on.
right. That's like perfect, wasn't it? What was the problem there?
Nah, nothing.
they shut down the Aladdin ride after 9/11.
Wait.
Shut up. This
Is
feels
that-
like a bit.
I feel like it might be.
I don't think it's true.
Okay.
First off, my mind went to, is there an Aladdin ride?
I could have sold that to you guys.
You could have.
I
I mean, it's
on board.
it's not like Disney doesn't have a history of being super fucking racist, so it's not like I was like, no, really, Disney of all companies.
Damn.
Oh my god. So we'll get into your life in a second, Josh.
That's okay. I'm here. I'm just here to dick around with you guys. That's totally fine.
Well, I don't know if any of you watch the show Atlanta. One of the greatest fucking shows I've ever seen. And they every once in a while they do these episodes that are unrelated to the plot at all. They're just these standalone anthology type episodes. And in the final season, they did one on this CEO of Disney. He was the first black CEO, and he basically got the job by accident because they did a vote and everyone thought they were voting for someone else who had a similar name. So this guy gets voted in to be the CEO, and he was just like an animator that wasn't really given a real shot. And he's the one who came up with the Goofy movie, and that was entirely his idea. And
This is a true story?
swear to God, true story. Just, you don't even have to watch the show Atlanta. Whoever, everyone listening, you have to go to just skip to season 4, Google it with the episode. I don't know the episode number, and it's all about the black CEO who came up with the Goofy movie, based it on his life and his son. and it tried to pull a ton of like racial themes into it. And then he left, like he kind of, they found his car crashed. They're trying to get rid of him as CEO. They don't get too much into a conspiracy with it, but like he ends up crashing his car and they never find the body.
Ends up crashing his car.
Yeah.
He's like the Disney Michael Hastings.
But he kind of starts to spiral too. So, I mean, it is possible he did do something to himself intentionally. Like they kind of track his spiral down. Like he starts losing it and kind of like really feeling like he is the characters that he's like animating and writing for. It's wild. It was one of like the most I was like, the whole time I sat there with like my jaw dropped. I was like, no fucking way. This
holy shit
can't be real, but it is. So
thanks,
everyone should check it out.
Goofy movie for me. Damn, dude.
Yeah, it does change. I do want to go back and rewatch it now though, because it does change to some of the vibe for it.
The last time I think I saw those movies when I was like 12 or 13, and now I think I'm gonna go back and it's gonna be way more open now.
The first one holds up.
Oh yeah,
I watched that with my kids maybe a year ago, and they were maybe a little too young to care enough, but I sat and watched the whole thing while they went and played.
You were like, I saw this on Atlanta.
Yeah.
So excited.
I don't think I've ever seen a Goofy movie.
What?
Somebody was actually just telling me that I needed to watch that was like their favorite, that I need to watch it.
Yeah. It's so different than any other Disney movie, and I like, especially with those characters. Like it was like people were blown away that there's going to be a movie with Goofy that didn't even include Mickey. It was like, that was like one of the reasons that everyone started to be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? He was like co-opting it and turning everything into Goofy. It was weird. Anyway, everyone should watch the episode.
And then they had like the stoner friend who, like, they all try to go to the X Games together, or is that
not the X Games? There's like what's the name of the dude? I don't know. They want to go see that like pop star. He's like a major. He's supposed to be like a Prince or a Michael Jackson. Is what he's supposed to be.
Right.
But anyway, enough about Goofy. Let's talk about you.
That was an excellent segue.
Yeah. But, are you an Orlando native or transplant?
I'm a transplant. I've basically lived all over Florida. So I was actually born about an hour and a half north of here in Ocala, which is kind of like a horse farm type area. Wasn't a whole lot going on there when I was born there, but now it's kind of up and coming. So of course, now that I'm gone, it's actually exciting. But I lived there for a couple of years when I moved back to Florida with my parents. Eventually moved to St. Pete with my girlfriend, and then she got a job for Disney, so we both just kind of made our way over here. And I was super hesitant at first. I didn't used to like Orlando at all. I just knew Disney World and traffic, put those things together, and it's just a nightmare. And I was pleasantly surprised when I got here. There's a lot more opportunities and a lot more things that I can do to make something of myself here. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised.
That's a big city too.
Oh my God, yeah.
Florida's a weird place because like I've spent a ton of time there between like, family vacations and then work. I worked a ton down there for a while.
Yeah.
But it's so weird. It's like I don't know, it's like an avocado. Like there's the shell on the outside, like on the coastal regions. And then there's that, that band that extends from like, 5 miles inland to somewhere in the middle where the reading level goes up again. The
literacy rate is like back to normal.
Yeah, it goes from like Cocaine Beach Resort to True Detective, and then back into like normal Midwestern Southern town.
I was really interested where you were going with that analogy, and it actually panned out.
Yeah.
I was just trying to avoid onion. Onion's so easy,
Yeah, that was a good one.
And they don't. Incidentally, though, both onions and avocados not good for dogs.
Right, you are.
That is true. So, did you like spend most of your childhood then in Ocala?
So I was born there. My dad was a youth pastor at a little church in Ocala. And honestly, we left. I was talking to you guys about this before. Like, we left to go to the mission field when I was 3. So I probably lived there for 2.5, 3 years. My parents just started deputation. It's like going around getting all the people to support us. We did that for about 6 months. And then after that, we moved to Costa Rica for a year and a half. And they learned Spanish there. This was before Duolingo was a thing. So they moved to Costa Rica with some friends, learned Spanish. After about a year and a half there, we ended up moving to Venezuela. And we were there for about 6 years.
Dude, that is, first of all, I've never heard the process called deputization.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we called it deputation. That was just us going around to every church that would have us, basically. My dad would have this, not a shtick, but like he would have like
a pitch.
To talk about a pitch. That's the word I was looking for. And I remember like brief little bits here and there of churches that we would see, like just different things that we would kind of go around to. Because by the time we moved to Costa Rica, I was going on 5. So I have little bits of memories here and there, but not a whole lot.
I think what's neat, like you said, no Duolingo, like
yeah,
you make that. I mean, that is like a big, that's a big commitment to be like, all right, so first we want to be missionaries. So we're going to raise money for 6 months, and then we're going to live somewhere for a year and a half and just learn the language. I think that is really cool, just to be able to make that commitment. Whether, obviously, my feelings about proselytizing in other countries has changed a lot, but the commitment level to just go, I'm going to learn this language, and then to just really dive into it like that is pretty sick. I would love. I feel like that's one thing that people say all the time. Like, I'd love to know another language. No one really commits to it, but I feel like a year and a half is a short period of time to learn a language and then be able to actually communicate with somebody effectively. I don't know if I have that ability in me.
I don't think I do either. I feel like that's just a different level of actual commitment, like you were saying. And like, that's, again, whether I necessarily believe in it or not, like they were dedicated. They knew what God wanted them to do, and they chased it wholeheartedly and actually gave it a shot. Like, that's jumping into the deep end too. That's not just like, I'm going to go take Spanish lessons here at my local community college for a couple years. They're like, well, if we're going to do it, may as well do it right. We had friends down in Costa Rica, and
okay. So there was a connection there. Is that
as far as I remember,
was Venezuela like their end goal the whole time?
Yes. That was where we really wanted to be. And we actually we had a few friends down there as well. And it was actually a pretty decent thing that they built. So, by the time they'd learned Spanish and done everything and gotten over into Venezuela, we went to kind of like in between the two biggest cities, which was like Caracas and I'm trying to remember the other one, but like there were 2 major cities. We were kind of right in the middle in just a small little town, but we had the only house on the block from that sweet deputation money. And
it turns out it goes a lot farther in Venezuela.
Oh my God. And gas was like 20 cents a gallon, because at that point, Venezuela, that was their whole thing. I'm sure it still is, but
it's always September 10th in Venezuela.
Yeah. That was the craziest thing in the world, is like we had an Explorer that got like 8 miles to the gallon and cost us like $6 to fill up our tank. It was crazy.
That's nuts. So
did you guys ever did you have to come home periodically to the US and like rally support? And
so I was going to bring this up a little bit later too. Like, what's funny about diving into all this with you guys is I really genuinely haven't thought about a lot of this in years. Like, it's been such a thing that's so far removed from me that like it feels like it doesn't really exist anymore. So now I'm like going back and thinking about all this stuff. Every now and then we would come home. It was more so just to like visit family. It could have been some fundraising stuff like over time, but as far as I know, some of the main churches just kind of stuck with us. I don't ever remember hearing any conversations otherwise, but yeah, a lot of it was maybe once a year we would come back and visit my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family, whatever it was, just to kind of bring us back into a little bit of reality. But because it's a culture shock. Like it was way different. Like I have lots of weird stories about people that came into our house that my mom was witnessing to. It was just very interesting.
Came into your house in Venezuela, or when you were like, that was okay. But your your early childhood was all basically international. You
Uh,
said you were there for 7. What? So you moved back when were you like 11 or 12 when you guys moved back, something like that?
I was about 9 or 10 when we moved back.
Okay.
So we got to Venezuela and I was probably 4.5, 5, and then I think we were there for about 5.5 years or so. So yeah, it was very strange, and I'm super lucky that I grew up to not be the biggest dork in the world. Because that really changes people. Like being out of the country and having no social cues, but your family members, like that makes you a little weird if you don't fix it pretty quickly. So I got bullied just enough when I got back to the States to become like a generally normal person.
There was still time for
Oh yeah.
the
Some
dregs of
gangster.
society to hammer you back into a normal American.
Yeah, I got my ass kicked a few times and it was probably necessary.
Was it for
Well,
trying to witness to people in public school?
No, what was even worse was when we finally did come back to the States, my dad became an assistant pastor at a church in Colorado. And I'm very excited to talk about them because they did us dirty. So,
Ooh.
Oh,
oh yeah,
We'll
but
need names. I want the
oh,
I want
yeah,
the
dude, the
pastor's
church.
name.
Oh,
hey, we'll pull an old trick and just put their name in the episode title.
yeah, there you go. Talking about our dear friend.
So
Yeah.
were you in like an Americanized school in Venezuela?
Uh, no. So that just added to the weirdness of us as kids. So when we moved there, we had already been homeschooling because like we were moving around the whole time. We were homeschooling with I'm sure you guys know this, a Becca book.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So we were using that, and by the time we got there, it was a little bit more like honed in. My mom was actually doing the classes with us. And at a certain point, they had the really great idea of sending us to a Spanish school that was nearby and just have fun, learn the language. And I was like 6 at the time.
Wow.
I think that lasted maybe 3 weeks, and that was it. And we were like, all right, I learned nothing. I didn't try to learn anything. I was like, no, I think we're good.
That's
Oh, man.
that is not how you learn. Well, I shouldn't say that's not how you learn language because plenty of people
That's
immigrate here and
that's
then
what tons of immigrant kids
they
have to
send
do
their
here.
kids to, which is so my school is the school that I'm at now. It's probably only like 20 or 30% white, and then there's like a huge immigrant population in the town. So there's a lot of kids who come in to like preschool speaking it, but it's preschool. It's not like you're in like
Yeah.
first or second grade or something like that. But there's a lot of kids who go into the preschool who don't speak English, and that's where they learn. That's where they learn English. But what's kind of neat, and I was thinking about this. I think about this a lot with like kids and stuff because everyone you go to high school in the U.S. and they're like, all right, now you have to take 2 years of a language because that's somehow supposed to make you a better, more well-rounded person. And it's like I don't it makes zero sense to me that you wouldn't just like start teaching them another like kids another language when they're like in first grade or
Yeah.
whatever and then just like do that up through elementary school and then call it a day in high school or middle school. But uh, I didn't think any schools did that, but the school that I'm working at actually has like a dual language program, and
Huh.
as long as you're like doing well with your like reading and like yeah, God, what's the word? Whatever. Like the English,
Arithmetic?
yeah, whatever. But yeah, arithmetic. No, but you can kids just yeah. Parents are like, I want my kids to be in the dual language class so that way they can learn Spanish, and
Yeah.
they're learning it and like starting kindergarten, first grade. And I'm like, that is so cool and such a better idea because especially now, I'm like, I would love to learn Spanish. I feel like once, even after I'm like finished with my master's program, I want to just start taking Spanish like classes to actually learn Spanish for real. Since it's such like a since it's such a high population of Spanish speaking people at where I work.
Yeah.
Did you hold on to any of it, or I mean, that was so long ago. I imagine it was tough to keep it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I had opportunity to learn it. It I was really young when we were there, so there was just the whole like I didn't really try. And
Yeah.
yeah, so my parents focused more on my sisters, like they actually like tried to include them on some of the church stuff and like help them like talk to people. So I was just kind of like there. I would just listen. I can kind of like understand. I have the accent. Like I can say Spanish words properly and not sound like a gringo. But when I got back to the States, my mom was a teacher for a lot of our classes in our private school. So there's the private school attached to the Baptist church that my dad joined. So my mom taught English, Spanish classes, pretty much anywhere that she could fill in. And like you were saying, we had the opportunity to take Spanish classes from like fourth grade to sixth grade. And then for our last 2 years of high school, we had to take 2 years of Spanish as well. So I was made to take these classes. I didn't try, even when I was given the opportunity. And I regret it now because I live in a very Spanish population. Like
Yeah,
it would have been so helpful for my job now.
I took
But I
like
didn't try.
6 years of Spanish altogether too, and I
Not a
I remember
word.
like random words like biblioteca is library, chaqueta
That's
de
not Bible?
lluvia is raincoat, if I remember correctly.
Yep. I know bathroom and that's about all that sticks.
Practical terms.
Uh-huh, but I can say people's names properly. So when people come into the gym and they have a very Spanish name, I can make myself not sound like a total idiot.
That honestly, trying to say Spanish names when you hear it with the accent and then you say it back, you're like, God, that was not right. I heard it like,
Like, wow, the
and I
white
felt I felt like I was about to say it that way, and it did not sound right at all.
the the whiteness just kind of shows a little bit every now and then.
Yep.
So okay, so you guys come back to the States. Your dad's
Yes.
a youth pastor. Your
Hmm.
mom's involved in the church. You're
Yep.
also going to the connected school
Yep.
where your mom's a teacher.
Yes.
There's just
And my
like
dad
no
was too.
escaping your parents' gaze, huh?
No, there's no escaping it. So my dad was actually he was the assistant pastor of the whole church, and he was also the Bible teacher for seventh grade to 12th grade. So we I was just with them every single day. I had to be driven to school by them. I saw them for lunch. I saw them for at least 2 or 3 classes a day. And it was fine. Like it wasn't terrible, but I think part of me just wanted to be the rebellious kid because it was my mom. So I was just not into whatever class was being taught. But so I was just kind of an asshole in a lot of high school. And that was another thing too, was like when I got there, I was probably in fourth grade. I think that was when I started. And that's when I realized that I was just a little bit weird. Just not like the rest of the kids. It took me a few years to kind of figure that out. And it was such a small school that there was, I believe, 9 people in my graduating class. It
I
was,
feel you.
You and Casey have a lot in common then.
yep, it was not a great time. But yeah, so
Was that
So
an Abeka school?
I think yes for the most part, but I think it was also I think it was kind of a mishmash. So I remember some Bob Jones stuff. I remember
yeah, the BJU.
yep. I think they tried to steer away from the BJU stuff because they didn't think it was as accurate, I guess, or as like in line with what they believed. But it was a lot of Abeka. But I will give my mom props. Like she was the literature teacher, English. Like she had us reading things that were not in the curriculum. She had us like actually trying to read classic literature and things like that. That I'm sure Abeka would have not not been a fan of.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never did Abeka. My school was ACE,
Uh huh.
Accelerated Christian Education, and it was like the structure of ACE was basically like self-taught homeschooling where you just had these little self-contained books and you would do those books in your little cubicle.
Oh
You'd
yeah,
grade it yourself. Like, I mean, we didn't
100,
technically have
100,
like
100.
classes. I
Dang.
got caught I got caught cheating on that. Had to repeat like a couple of books.
How would you not? The temptation is there. Like, is that just part of their curriculum to see if you'll cheat? If you
Yeah.
don't cheat, they give you a higher score.
I think it's like one of those things where it's like we're in the end times. Jesus is coming back. Who cares if they
It
can
doesn't
read?
matter anyway.
I mean, look, the teachers there already got shitty to zero salary. Like, do you think they want to spend their time grading papers? Absolutely not.
They don't. They don't care.
That's
Yeah,
the
and
real
there
motivation.
was 2 of them,
Mm.
for a whole school.
Oh my god.
God, 2. I didn't realize there was only 2.
Yeah. So how did the other kids treat the fact that your parents were there and the youth pastor and all that kind of stuff? I mean, were these other like dorky Christian school kids? Because everybody in my school was.
Yes and no. So it. I don't know. Everybody there either was going to the church, their parents were going to the church, or they went to something very similar. The only kid who wasn't was an exchange student, and so some of them were understanding. A lot of them were just like, this fucking nerd. All right. So I got my fair share of picked on and getting my ass beat a little bit, but it was the private school ass beat where it was more mental than it was like actually kicking you in the nuts. It was just a lot of it was a lot of breaking you down. But I think that was what I needed to kind of become a well-rounded, functioning person. But a lot of them were kind of in the same zone, but a lot of them were athletes. So that was the big thing at our school was our sports. And I'm sure, Casey, you kind of have the same story with this if you have like the same kind of setup. The only thing that mattered was sports. And if you were good at a sport, then you were cool. If you weren't, you're not. And that was me. I was fucking 2 left feet, couldn't do anything, couldn't play soccer, basketball, nothing. So I was not a cool kid.
You hadn't broken out of your ninja pupa yet, huh?
No, I wanted nothing to do with any of it. The only reason I started working out in the first place was I looked like Gumby as a kid. Like I'm just like I shot up pretty fast and I weighed like maybe 100 pounds at like junior year. So I'm like 5'11", maybe like 95, 100 pounds. So I'm like, all right, I got to do something to not be a stick.
So you were the Larry to my Bob.
Yeah.
I was very spherical.
I would like to see you two on a basketball team together.
Oh my god, you probably don't. It was rough.
How,
I played. Yeah, go ahead.
How many kids were in the school? So was it like one of because like in my school everybody had to play pretty much, or else we couldn't have a team.
We weren't that bad. We were pretty close to that though. So I think in total, our whole high school from like 7th grade to 12th grade was probably about 50 people. So it was not a whole lot, but it was enough to have a basketball team since that was like the only thing of interest that you could do. Like we really didn't have any extracurriculars or like things that you could do as far as classes go. It was you're either on the sports team or you play trumpet in the band. That's it. So we were we were very limited. It would have been nice to have an opportunity to take other classes, but you know, those required Bible classes were very important.
Oh yeah, you got to take your year through the. Okay, so curriculum. When you're talking Bible classes, was it? You obviously have to take Bible every year. Did they like theme it out to go through the entire Bible, or did they like do the whole like? You would take an entire class on a book. How did they try to even do that in Christian high school?
It really just kind of depended on the teacher, I think. So some were obviously better at it than others. So my dad was one of the pastors or one of the teachers. Our actual pastor was one of the teachers as well. He would teach like maybe 2 classes a week. Our youth pastor was one, and he was not the best. And
interesting. Did he get double salary? Was he just trying to double dip?
From what I heard, I don't think double dipping was a thing. I think you just kind of got what you got, and whatever God wants you to do on the side, you got to do it.
That was the
He's
job.
the he's the youth pastor. He was probably looking for a wife.
Oh, he was. There's like every church and every private school has those meaty secrets where like, did you hear about the youth pastor doing this? Did you hear about the music teacher got caught doing this? Like there was always those things. Even in like the tiny private schools and the Baptist churches, there's always those like, did you hear the youth pastor? I won't spill anybody's tea like 15 years ago, but there was always those kind of things.
You didn't recoil and say, "Oh, no, nothing like that." So, we'll just take that and run with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Guys, I'm sorry to do this. Can I have like 30 seconds for a quick bathroom break?
Go, of course.
All right.
Yeah.
He was that's unusual for him. He must have forgot to go beforehand.
I was fully planned out for this, even though the Chromebook didn't work. Like I have my table set up. I have my little ring light. I peed before I went. I got my beer before I got here. I forgot my headphones, but I had those charging and ready. And yeah, I even got off work early to be here and still forgot my headphones.
There, you said you work at a gym?
Yeah, so I'm the studio manager at it's called F45. It's like a HIIT circuit training type of workout. I manage that studio, and I also coach a couple classes here and there, and then I also I coach ninja classes at the Ninja Warrior gym that I train at as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, dude, I'm at that point in my life where I'm like, God damn it, I need to start moving. Like my whole body feels like it's betraying me at this point. It's not fun. Like when I was younger, I like really fucked up my trapezius muscles. It was more like a freak thing. Like I picked something up and they just like completely seized up on me. Whoa. And I was like, for a couple days was like could barely move. And ever since then I've had like that happen occasionally. Yeah. And now it's like, it's almost constant discomfort where it's like even just moving like this, I just feel like the pull and it's like uncomfortable to move. So it's like, I've thought about doing just even like, just signing up for like a fucking yoga class just to get some, just to stretch like and move a little bit.
It's so good. Just any type of movement in general. I'm a big fan of like, it sounds super douchey, but I really love hot yoga. I think it's fantastic. They bump the room up to 105 degrees and you just kind of sweat it out for an hour and it's awesome. It makes you feel insane afterwards because it's all like a mental thing where you're like, I just got to push through this. I got to push through this. I feel like I'm going to die, but I got to push through it. And by the time you're done, you're just like on the floor in your own puddle of sweat. You're like, this is nice. I feel good.
I don't know what would come out of me in that environment. It's just everybody's
farts.
Like, it's
farts, like sweat, a little bit of vomit.
It's like it smells like somebody's microwaving like a Nutter Butter in here. Like, I'm sorry, it's my pores. I excrete little Debbie grease.
I'm always really, really impressed by Casey's his thought processes and his comparisons. They always make me laugh, and they're always fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Every time I hear him start a sentence off with, it's like, I'm like, okay,
oh, here we go. All right.
Everybody buckle up. We don't know where we're getting off this ride.
It's an avocado. It's microwaving a Nutter Butter. It's just a good time.
Yeah.
Where were we before you went pee?
Well, okay, so it sounds like there was a schism with the church at some point.
Yes.
I'm sure that didn't come out of nowhere. Like, what's the culture at this church? Was it somewhat toxic? Was there drama like leading up to this point? Did you see it happen to anybody else before it was happening to like your family?
Yeah. So there's just a little bit of everything you just mentioned. So it's a Baptist church. So I'm sure you guys have had your fair share of run-ins with Baptist churches and you know plenty about them. they're very, very strict about what the people on their staff can do. So my dad, being the assistant pastor, was on the spotlight a lot, and he was very concerned that if his kids messed up in any way, then they were going to get fired. So there was always just that constant, like, if you're doing this, I'm going to lose my job. If this happens, like, they could fire me. And it wasn't like, it
Oh
took,
wow, that's like a weird pressure to put on you as
yeah,
kids.
yeah. And, like, I really, it's nothing that I like hold a grudge against anymore. Like, I used to not be okay with it at all. Like, it used to really make me upset because I used to think, like, he's never home. He's putting work above the kids. Like, he really just doesn't care. That's what I used to think because I was a freaking teenager who just didn't understand the way that life worked. So I understand now that he really was just trying to provide. And the job that he had was providing. And it seemed to be working. Like, it was good for what he had. My mom didn't get paid very much, but I think my dad got enough to like be comfortable.
Well, to be fair,
So
she's a woman, so she got what she deserved, right?
yeah, that's right. All they're good for is teaching, right? So there was that. Like, there was definitely that kind of looming. I could get fired if this happens. Like, if this ever comes out, I could get fired for this, because there was just really weird rules for us as pastors' kids. So, like, we couldn't go to movie theaters, we couldn't listen to any kind of contemporary music, we couldn't be caught out, going to the mall and holding hands with someone, like that kind of stuff. So it was just very uptight. Like, they were very strict on what you would post, because that's when Facebook got really big too. Like, that was 2000. How old am I? All right, so that was like mid 2000s, like later 2010s, when like Facebook was becoming a big thing. And people would post anything they wanted on there. They didn't really understand what was happening. So my dad all the time would be like, don't post this. I remember I used to play Tony Hawk Pro Skater with my sister all the time. Loved everything about it. That was just like our thing. And there was an AC/DC song that was on there that would always get stuck in our heads, and we would sing it to each other. And I posted a lyric from the AC/DC song onto my sister's Facebook page, and my dad pulls me into his office one day at like 9 a.m. and he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, a song?" He's like, "No, that's AC/DC." I'm like, "Okay, I wasn't aware." He's like, "Take it down." He's like, "I could get in trouble." I'm like, "Okay." I didn't really understand like what was wrong with it or why. Like, I was at the age where I didn't really understand why AC/DC was bad, or like I hadn't really discovered music. But Tony
Man,
Hawk Pro Skater was what got me into a lot of it.
dude, that is wicked interesting. Is your dad, are your parents still involved in like church and and Christianity and stuff?
To a degree, yes. So they they go to church, and I think that's kind of about it. I think my dad teaches some Sunday school to some of the adults every now and then, but I don't think it's like a regular thing. I think after what happened at the church, they really just kind of like, we're
Yeah.
not doing this way anymore. Like, they realized what had happened, the way that they were treated, and I didn't even get to that point yet, but
Yeah, we'll
um
jump back. The only reason I was asking that at all was because it's like what curious to think about like what his perspective on that would be now. Like to think
yeah,
about like how much pressure, because as a person who needs to hold down a job to take care of his family or whatever, you're just like,
yeah,
oh, I'm gonna get in trouble if you post that. Like that unnecessary pressure to put on, like the church put on your dad,
yeah,
and that it's like, how can you like, no one can control their kids. It's like, it's funny because, on one hand, you're like, that's fucking stupid. That's a dumb way to treat people. What church does that? But then that's like literally in the Bible. If you're going to be a pastor, you need to be able to manage your own household, because if you can't manage your household, how can you manage a church? And
yep.
they take that one literally. And it's like, well, at least they have some follow through, I guess, on being literal with the Bible. Of course, only
Most
when
of
it
it,
comes to
no.
putting
That one,
on,
yeah.
yeah, it's like, Their follow through generally only applies when it's going to potentially ruin somebody's life and make everything worse. It's never like they never like hold a mirror up to their beliefs or their inconsistencies. They'll just pick out stuff like that and
Not a lot
run
of
with it.
kids will be kids sort of
Yeah, no,
mentality.
there's not a lot of that. They stick to the gay shit, and they stick to pastors should control their household, and the rest is like, nah, leave it up to interpretation. I'll kind of decide what we want to talk about this week.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
it's
anyone who
funny
says
because like
differently. Go ahead, Casey.
Yep.
my dad he was never a pastor or anything, but he was always, he was in church leadership a lot. It's just kind of who he is. Like, if he's around some place for long enough, somebody's going to ask him to run things because he's that guy,
Yeah.
And like, in a much less dramatic and probably like hurtful way, like the same sorts of type, like I think those similar sorts of things happened with them where, you know, it's almost like being in church leadership. It's like seeing how the sausage is made,
Yeah.
and it I think it makes you jaded. It makes you not want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's hard to find the fun in it, and I don't know where like some of that comes from, but I think a lot of it has to do with people who are like constantly moralizing, constantly trying to like reaffirm that their belief system and stuff is like the way and the key and all that there is, and people who are like so culturally ignorant but yet so convinced that culture is what's causing like every ill in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
they're convinced that rock music is like destroying kids' lives, and now it's rap, and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, then you'd sit through presentations where they'd talk about bands from like 30 years ago as if it's present day.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, none of us know who the Doors are, dude. Like,
I have a great story relating to that, actually. So we had at least like twice a year, we would have an evangelist family come through, and they would have like a week-long thing where they would kind of take over the Bible classes. We'd all meet in like the assembly room, and we would all listen to the evangelist tell his stories and stuff like that. So I don't remember the name of this evangelist. If I did, I would call him out because of how stupid he was and how like bothersome his thought process was. But what sticks out to me is he was talking about how the Lord saved him from all of his heavy metal headbanger music. And he goes on to list his heavy metal headbanger music. He's like, I would listen to Queen. I would listen to AC/DC. I would listen to Ozzy. He's like, all that heavy metal headbanger stuff, like that was what I was into. And this was at the point where I was discovering like I wasn't super heavy yet. Like I wasn't into like the death metal stuff yet, but I had found like Slipknot. I had found like Bless the Fall and like these like deathcore bands and like so I would like kind of sit and listen. I'm like, Queen? That's
Queen's a bop. Queen is like
Queen is awesome.
You play Queen at like a wedding, dude. That's
everybody knows it. Oh yeah. It's
metal.
Fantastic. But I wouldn't necessarily classify it as heavy metal headbanging.
Yeah. It's like pop. It's pop music.
It's not headbanging. It's foot stomping music.
Yeah, that's a more appropriate way to describe it. But that always just kind of tickled me because like he came when I was like maybe 12, and he came back when I was like 15, and like
they had him back. Jeez,
yeah, they had him
big
back
hit.
several
Some of
times.
them were on a circuit, man.
Mm-hmm.
Did he have kids that he brought along?
He did. Yep.
What were
younger
they like?
Younger girls, if I remember correctly.
Were they in matching outfits and they were floral pattern dresses?
Their little like pink flowy dresses, and the mom would be wearing the same dress only in her size. It was just a whole thing.
They play recorder solos in front of the church for special music.
I'm sure they did something to that effect. Like it was always just like kind of cringy stuff that they thought was really cutting edge and really cool. But it's like it's the equivalent of being a missionary kid. Like you don't have any social cues, and they don't really understand the real world, and it was very evident.
Dude, it's weird how like there's like different types of families that would come through church. Whether you were talking about missionaries or evangelists or whatever, and I feel like we've like laughed a lot about the distinction between people who went as a missionary to a real place that was like a totally different culture, and they went and
Yeah.
integrated themselves in that place. Like we
Mhm.
had a family that went to Papua New Guinea and lived
Oh
with the
yeah.
tribe and
Wow.
translated their language into a written language and translated the whole Bible.
My
Those
God.
kids were cool.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they were
They've
fun to
seen
be
some
around.
shit. Like they've
Yeah.
they've lived a life.
And then there would be kids who were like, "Yeah, we're our family's missionaries to Belgium."
You're like,
And
all
they were
right.
always weird. You're like, you just figured out your parents just figured out how to be like weird pod people for free in Belgium.
You're
Like,
like, where can I go where the people are the whitest? Let's stick with that plan.
yeah. The worst part about it is like every 3 years you have to come back and talk like pudgy Bible Belt people out of like,
Oh.
one Diet Coke a week to support your family.
And you have to convince people that what of the work that you're doing. Well,
Well,
this look, we're we're still working on it. We're trying to get involved in the community first, really make connections with people. And then that's when you can start inviting them to your Bible studies. And so it's just a slow burn. And you're like, really?
You know
You
I
what
seem
will
Hook would
to
have
say,
worked?
really
right?
enjoy this permanent vacation.
You know what
It,
Hook would have worked like in that time period is be the missionary family that comes back from like a cool place like that, and be like, yeah, we're evangelizing, we're handing out tracts, and with every tract we hand out a pocket constitution. And they
oh.
would be like, take my money.
It says "We the People" on the front of it.
Yeah, we're handing out those little like Santeria candles, but they have Ronald Reagan on them.
Yeah.
People are talking again. You're like, what the hell? Oh
I
my.
like the people who, well, I guess these were the people running the circuits, but like the people who were so convinced that the church was just no one was on fire for the Lord anymore, that they're like, we're missionaries to churches. And you're like, God damn, get your head out of your ass.
I don't think we ever really came across that, but I know there was people that did not leave the States. And I remember coming across those people or having those people come across our church. And we're like, all right,
Yeah.
get $5 a week. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like there was sort of a culture of like it was like management by fear for the
Yeah,
people in leadership there. Who
very
was
much
driving that? Was it like the deacons? Did they have like a bunch of deacons that were kind of
so.
the power center, or was it the pastor that was kind of like the dictator figure?
Yeah, so it was definitely the pastor. We didn't really have as much of like a deacon presence. Like I the church that we used to go to in Ocala was very like deacon focused, and they were in all the meetings. They were here to do all that stuff. But ours was really just like the main church staff. It was the pastor. Am I allowed to say names on this? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Go
All
for
right.
it.
You can say addresses too, man. Dox whoever you want.
All right.
It's not a crime. I mean,
You're gonna
doxing's
get our
fully
Twitter
legal.
taken down, bro.
It happened. I'm not saying anything that's incorrect anyway.
Just
So
don't release Elon's most recent flight logs, and we won't have any
we're good.
problems.
We're okay. So I attended Front Range Baptist Church in Fort Collins, Colorado, and because that's where we moved to after we came back. Because when we moved back from Venezuela, that was when Hugo Chavez kind of became dictator and was like, we don't want any Americans.
Yeah,
So
I meant to ask you about that.
yeah, so
So
that was
you
a
were
thing.
they were forced to leave, or it just became like very
Um,
unsafe.
it was very unsafe, and it really became like we don't want Americans in or out. So if you're in, you're staying.
Okay.
Because at that point, like the relations between the United States and Venezuela were not good. They didn't want to export oil. They didn't want anything to do with us. So it just
Weird.
got.
The U.S. has always treated people so well too.
Oh, I
gonna
know
say,
it's really weird, right? Why
they
do
had
why do
this
we always get
crazy
the short end of
idea
the
that we
stick?
might destroy their economy.
We're gonna steal that 20 cents a gallon oil and just make it our own. But anyway, we we ended up like cutting our losses. Like from what I could recognize, like we did a pretty solid job. Like we started a church, we started kind of a community around it. We had built people up to where they could take over the church. And by the time we'd gotten there, we're like, it's really not safe for us to be here anymore. Our friends that were also missionaries in the general area were doing the same thing too. So we cut our losses, and a guy that my dad used to go to Pensacola Christian College with started his own church in Fort Collins, and invited him out to be the assistant pastor there. So
Good to catch a flight before the Politburo starts pulling off fingernails.
uh-huh. I was we don't know like how bad it became. I know a couple people who used to live there that are like actually born there, and they said it's still just not great. Like them as Venezuelan natives, it's still really hard for them to go back in. So it's just not a welcoming country from what I've heard. But we made it back to the States, moved to Colorado, and basically the main people in the church were Pastor Redlin, my dad, Pastor Redlin's brother, and the youth pastor. So youth pastor kind of came and went. There was a couple different changes over the course that I was there, but the last one that came through when I was kind of in my high school days was not a fan. Let's put it that way. But basically, it was what I was mentioning earlier about them being very uptight with what your kids can do. They were very strict on the way that your kids could act. Your kids had to be at certain things. They had to be doing this, doing that. So it boiled down to basically the kids being bad influences. That's what they told my dad at the end, because after working there for about 10 years, they fired all of us. And I say all of us, meaning my dad and my mom. So we weren't working for the church yet, thankfully.
They fired them and blamed you.
No. So they fired my dad and my mom, and they also fired the pastor's brother, who was also kind of an assistant pastor. Reason being, the kids were bad influences. And what that means, what it kind of boiled down to was my oldest sister went to visit her boyfriend because she was at Pensacola Christian College. I'm sure you guys have heard plenty about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they're not into letting you have a significant other of any kind. If you have one, you don't ever touch them. So they got in trouble. Like my sister was in her final semester of her degree, and they kicked her out. None of her credits transferred. Yep, because she said
they're
that
not a real school.
No, of course not. They kicked her out, and none of her credits transferred because she went to visit her boyfriend at the time, and it was just like, it was genuinely the saddest thing I'd ever heard. My middle sister like had her own stuff going on, and then it boiled down to me swearing and posting metal music on my Facebook page, and that was what it was. Like that they brought those things in front of my parents and said, "This is why we're letting you go."
Why did they let the brother go?
Oh, because his again, I don't imagine anybody that is involved in this story will end up listening to this episode, but welcome
on the show if they want to retort.
That would be awesome. That would be, I can't explain how much fun that would be. Like all these people who have been slighted by this church be like, "What's up, guys? Welcome." We're here to air our grievances. So one of his children was caught smoking weed in the school bathroom. And
cool. And that's it.
Super
clearly
cool. Very cool.
This got caught once smoking weed. Mm-hmm. Clearly he's a terrible father and shouldn't be in leadership.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what it boiled down to, was we think that your children are bad influences on the rest of us, and we're not going to have them ruin the good influences that our church has.
Was this something
kicked them out of the church too? Were you guys like kicked out?
I mean, we weren't kicked out of the church, but my dad was fired, and it's a small church of maybe 300-400 people. So
you guys should have still gone. Your dad should have shown up with you guys every single week and let you just do your thing as a fuck you.
Wear your pokey pauldrons.
It was like, I don't know. After that, like by the time I was probably like 16, I was already kind of getting out of that thinking. Because like when I was growing up, like I was all in. I was full church, full God, full everything. And I started working when I was like 14, 15, like just random jobs. But I actually got to go out and meet people that were not associated with the church. And I think that's what really started me having different like actual points of view, like a normal person. I got a job working at Cold Stone where I met some of my best friends that I'm still friends with today, and they showed me how to not be a fucking weirdo. And I mean, to a degree, I'm still a little bit on that trend, but it was getting to the point, like by the time I was 15, 16, like I was really just kind of done with it. I was just kind of there by proxy. I would just get dragged to church, wasn't super excited about it. And I was excited that we were leaving. I thought it was a great thing because I just didn't recognize the impact that it had on my family and my parents, because like we were in a comfortable space. Like we moved to Fort Collins to work for this church. Like we brought everything over for this. My dad worked 6-7 days a week working for this church. Like I mentioned, like he was never really home a whole lot because he was just doing what they told him to
Which
do.
how fucking ironic is that, right? Like you need to take care of your family and like raise good children, but also you're never allowed to be around them because we're going to overwork you and underpay you.
I
It's fucking horse shit.
It's absolutely bananas. Like that's the best way I've heard it described. Like you can't do that to people. Like it was the complete opposite of what they're trying to teach. Like we're going to keep you busy doing literally every possible thing in the church that the pastor doesn't want to do. God forbid he work more than 2 days a week, and let's just put it on him. And it was just a whole bunch of bullshit. And
Did the pastor have kids?
he did.
Were they shitbags?
You know, he had one kid, and I think he adopted him from, I think, Russia. So, like, I remember them telling the story of, like, this whole big, like, process of them having to go to Russia and, like, meeting him and, like, coming back and forth and eventually getting him. And it's just, like, there's stuff that happened with him, too, with, I'm not going to, again, like, air out that kind of stuff on here because it's, you know, somebody else that I'm still, like, generally okay with. I kind of talk to every now and then. But based upon their standards, the pastor should have been fired.
Mm-hmm. That's where I was going with that line of thinking. Is like I'm sure he found a way to insulate himself from the same standards.
Oh, and get this, he is now the head pastor at Pensacola Christian College.
This guy
he left
is
the church, and now he is the head pastor.
Oh,
wow.
Man, we could probably find some sound bites from this guy, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's
what sticks out? Okay, when you think about this guy, do you remember any particular things that he said, like whether it was a sermon or something he said to you individually? Because I imagine he had some ridiculous thoughts on things.
All in all, like I said, like I haven't really thought about a lot of this in such a long time. It's been just out of the back of my head. He felt normal, and that's what was weird about it. He felt like he was the down to earth. He was like the understanding pastor. Like he gets everything that's going on. He may not agree with everything that happens, but like that's just kind of how he played himself off as. So I don't really remember any big sermons that stuck out. I don't remember like anything crazy that he would ever have said, but I just remember that it was, especially after we left, there was just a lot of hypocrisy that came from him, that came from his family, that came from the situation that happened with us and then with his brother. Like it was crazy. There was just every possible thing wrong with it was wrong. And he's still doing his thing, still crushing those sermons in front of thousands of people that are brainwashed into thinking they can't ever touch a member of the opposite sex.
Dude, that's such a, like, being a pastor is such a strange job, and it attracts like us. It attracts a few different kinds of people.
People like us.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost like cops in a way.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've got like
thing they do.
Yeah, it's like small town cop that's, you know, just a kind of a community guy that, you know, is fine. Like he's just there to help out where he needs to and stuff like that. There's also like psychos. Psychos in two ways. Like there's the guys that are just like hardliner religious psychos that are, you know, fundamentalist like nut jobs. And then there's guys who are psychopaths that cloak themselves in that. You know, that just enjoy the control and the authority that the position gives them.
That was my youth pastor.
Oh, the one that you didn't like.
He was fresh out of West Coast Baptist College. You guys hear about that one?
No,
not familiar with West Coast.
No, there was a school in California. He was literally like 22 when he came over. man was young and loved the position he was in. But anyway, continue with your thought, Casey. Sorry, I just like to kind of go off and air out my grievances too.
No, that's really it. You know, it's just like you think back on all the different pastors that you knew, and there was good one. Like I was lucky. I mean, my pastor was a great dude. He's still a
Yeah,
great dude. But then we had like these guys around us that were nuts. And
yeah,
I had a youth pastor for a while that I'm sure he's fine now,
yeah,
but he was a young guy that was just like brimming with confidence and ready to like just shake up a group of teenagers, you know, and
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it really like sucked the fun out of all of the youth stuff, which was our only social outlet, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But I don't know what do you remember some things that like that youth pastor did that like really
Wow.
stained your perception of him?
Yeah, he was like the typical jock, and I was not into sports. I wasn't into any kind of physical activity. So, uh, all that they ever wanted to do was just kind of build some kind of ministry around sports, which it would turn into like we would do like lock-ins. Did you guys ever do lock-ins at your schools? Yep.
Yeah.
So what would turn it like start off as like we're gonna have this like first half hour of gonna talk to God. We're gonna talk a little bit more about this, about that, about being a teenager. Then we're gonna go play some games. We're gonna come back and pray. We're gonna go back and do a couple more games. Like it started off as that, and then the entire night would end up being something sports related that they just couldn't stop playing because the youth pastor got too into it. And I remember he tore his ACL once because he was like, he was trying
Oh
to
my
play
god.
lacrosse or something with the teenagers.
Just
And
reliving the glory days.
oh yeah, like that was the only thing he had going, and yeah, lots of vivid memories of that. But it was he he would disguise himself as like, I'm doing this for y'all. I'm doing this for God. Like we're out here. We're getting together for the Lord. And then it would just turn into 6 hours of lacrosse or playing basketball for 3 hours. And I'm like, all right, well, worse things I could be listening to. So
Lacrosse.
last church.
Laxbro is such a thing. It's like a very clear cut stereotype.
well, what's worse is we couldn't, our church was so small, we couldn't afford lacrosse equipment. So we played milk jug lacrosse. That's where you take a tennis ball and you cut the top or the bottom off of a milk jug and you play lacrosse with the milk jug handle.
That sounds insane.
Does that not
And
sound
sharp. It sounds like those are potentially sharp. Very sharp
Balloon
edges on them.
volleyball.
a lot of sharp edges, a lot of people getting hurt, a lot of people like me who just didn't try to play, and then we'd get yelled at, and it was just a good time.
The last
That was a
church
big
that
thing
I
too. Like I would just get yelled at because I'm like, I don't feel like doing this. And they're like, that's too bad. Kind of hop in. I'm like, okay. Just kind of run for a little bit. Like I'm done. Yeah.
ugh,
It was
the,
it was less about God. It was more about him trying to prove that he's an athlete.
dude, the last church that I was at all affiliated with for any period of time, like my family went there and I went there some. I was kind of like they left the church that I had been in forever and went to this new one and I was kind of like protesting it, so I would go to the old church.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with anything spiritual. It was just like that was my comfort zone and I knew everybody there and
Yeah.
stuff. But the youth pastor at this last church that I went to with him, he was like really, I did not like him. And I don't know that there's anything particular that he did that like was bad or anything. It was just one of those guys that like you talk to him and you're like, this guy has no interest in me or in this youth group or whatever. Like he
Yep.
worked for the church full time, but like he was also the volunteer like coach at the local high school.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know, that was like what his passion was like teaching this high school football team,
Oh
that
yeah.
he didn't get paid for. And then he had to go back and like do the youth group stuff and he seemed like he resented it.
Yeah. And he's also not getting paid for the youth group stuff either. It's just kind of all lumped together.
Yeah. He's just living off of hot and ready pizzas that they throw away at midnight.
Our first youth pastor, anytime we would have a some kind of outing, like he would actually try to make fun outings for us. Like we'd go mountain biking or something fun. The only provisions he would bring for like a full 12-hour day was Mountain Dew and paydays. That was the only thing that he would bring.
Mountain Dew and paydays.
Survive off of paydays and Mountain Dew. But he actually tried. I will give him that. Like that first one, like he made an attempt. It wasn't great, but he tried.
Oh God.
So
where did so you said at 16 that's when everything started turning for you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you credit Cold Stone for like your monster forearm muscles that you use to like swing from ring to ring?
It started, yeah, that's where it started. Because like I did that for 2.5 years. I was, just doing the at the
double
end of the
scoops.
Up, I'm like, I couldn't move anything. But yeah, like it was a lot. And I noticed at the end of my time there, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, I can see the veins in my arms. All right.
Yeah, Cold Stone. Being a Cold Stone ice cream, is it ice cream chef? Is that what they call you?
I don't know what they called us. I think we were just employees, just
It's
another
like,
brick in the wall.
It's like low temp hibachi for beefcakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Because they would come out of the freezer just fucking rock hard. Like you had to like just dig one in and like hope you can kind of get to the softer stuff on the middle. It was not easy. I remember like a couple girls that we had as employees there that were like 100 pounds, like 5'4", and would like try to scoop ice cream, and it was just like it was rough, man.
Then you have to slap it on a cold slate and mix it up. It is. It's like watching someone work a hibachi grill, Casey.
Yeah.
And it was no onion volcanoes there.
It was the most demeaning thing in the world because I don't know if you guys remember this period of Cold Stone or if it's still a thing, but we had to sing if someone would tip us $1 or more. You guys remember that shit?
I never tipped $1 or more, so I don't.
Oh, first off, you're an asshole. Secondly,
hey, what did you have to sing?
Before they had before they would flip a Square device at you and ask if you want to tip 40, 35 or 30% every time you buy something.
For this like, $4 ice cream, you tip us $8, $9, or $12. We'll look at you poorly if you don't tip any more than 12.
Yeah, thanks. It's like really cool how these giant corporations are looking at poor college kids to subsidize their shit wages. But
oh yeah, I get even buying stuff online now. It'll be like, would you like to tip 10, 15, 20%? We really appreciate it. I'm like, I don't fucking know you. I don't get to see you in person. I feel like that's the one thing separating me from tipping somebody is me actually like seeing them do work instead of just some poor like 12-year-old girl in China bagging up my Amazon package and shoving it.
I pay to watch. That's it.
That's what I pay for. That,
yeah. Yes. Put it in the bag slowly, slower. You earned your tip today.
To be fair, Sam never ordered ice cream. He would just go in and order like 4 sides of Nerds.
I was that person. I would pack up a cup full of gummy bears after my shift every night and just walk out with it because it was just free candy. And
that's it.
There was a time in Cold Stone where if you got tipped $1 or more, you had to ask the customer if they would like a song. 80% of the time, the person was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" No, of course not. But then there were those assholes who were like, "I got $1 for you." So us being 17-year-olds, we're like, okay. So every song that we would put together, like we would arrange our own masterpieces. Like we would put music together. I remember we had a Cold Stone version of the Family Guy song. We had a Christmas song. We had a version of I Like Big Butts and I Cannot Lie. We did a little bit of everything. It was all very, very interesting for us as 17-year-old kids.
Are you going to sing one for us?
The idea that there's like Can you imagine? There's got to be like a team of like marketing people making like 80 to 100 grand a year somewhere,
Oh
sitting in
yeah,
a room writing Cold Stone apologetic songs.
writing dog shit songs. Meanwhile, these like 16-year-olds who are kind of in a band but not really are like, let's do it to a Family Guy song. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? And like, we actually got paid really well for that. Like, it didn't seem like it's not a lot now, but at the time when you're 16, going home with like $50 in tips every night, you're like, holy shit! Like I'm
Dang,
doing
yeah.
awesome. It was worth it to sing, I guess. When I went in and dropped off a resume, the asshole behind the counter was like, "So you know we sing here, right?" Like he wasn't even the boss, he wasn't a manager, he was just there. I handed the resume. He was like, "You know we sing, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." He's like, "Sing something for me." I'm like, and I went in with my mom too. Like my mom was with me. And he was like 5, 4, 3. I'm like, like my heart was about to explode. So I sang him "You Are My Sunshine" to a 21-year-old college kid.
It's wonderful. That's like, applying at Lehman Brothers and the guy's like, sell me this pen.
Oh my god. That was the equivalent of it. It was like, how badly can I make this kid shit his pants before he actually gets a job making less than minimum wage?
See, I have the theory that like Cold Stone nowadays is kind of like a cultural and economic barometer. Where like
Yes.
you can tell where a town is by how well their Cold Stone's doing. If it's going out of
Oh,
business, that's a
yeah.
town on the rise. That's they're about to get like some froyo places or maybe like the rolled ice cream places.
Oh yeah.
Like they're
Mm-hmm.
advancing. They're kind of like headed towards Austin's stage. If they're just getting a Cold Stone, like it's opening up right now. That's
It's gonna be. It's not in the best area. That's like. Did you guys ever hear of the comedian Pete Holmes?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he has a bit about like him being in a sketchy area, and he was like, "I'm not proud of this." He's like, "But I did the whitest thing possible, and I wanted to figure out how can I get out of this sketchy area the fastest." He's like, "So I googled Barnes and Noble." And it worked. He was like, I got out of the sketchy area. I got into a place where I could have a scone, and I just felt safe. I'm like, I feel like that's what a Cold Stone is. Like if you go to a Cold Stone, you know that you're next to a Publix, you're next to like a very nice bank. You're in like if they're
Possibly a Red Robin.
possibly a Red Robin somewhere nearby.
See here,
There's
like
something decent.
in the Great Plains states, that's like if they're getting a Cold Stone, it means that like the town is about to stop having to buy their groceries at Family Dollar.
Oh
You know?
yeah, that's Ocala. That's parts of Ocala. That's where I was born. There's like it's scary. It's a scary white person type of area where that's the one thing I'm scared of is like the really like the white people that live out in the boonies. They only shop at the Dollar Tree. That's the only thing they have around them. They get their gas from a gas station that's 25 miles away, and they live in their trailer out in the middle of nowhere. That's
Swamp people things.
What's the
scary
one with the
people.
sign? Is that Dollar General? I think it's
Uh,
Dollar General.
the one that looks like a Waffle House sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, it is the scourge of America.
Uh huh.
Like
And they
they're
keep
putting them in
popping up.
everywhere.
They're everywhere. I
Yeah.
don't know how they make money. I don't know how they stay in business, but there are millions of them.
Dude,
It
every
can't
one
be
of them.
ethically sourced product.
No, not at all.
No. It's a place where like it doesn't matter if the building is like we just got like a brand new one in like one of the towns between me and Wichita. It's like right along the highway. And
Mhm.
like it's brand new. Like it's less than a year old. And you
Mhm.
walk in the door and it's like you're going through a portal in time. Like you're stepping back into 1982 and you're in the worst grocery store you've ever seen.
It's
That's how
like
I feel going into CVS. You're like, there's still carpet on the floor. Like, what the fuck is this?
it's like
It's just
this dollar store. It's this dollar. It's like the dollar store is brand new, but the vinyl squares are already peeling up.
yeah.
Yeah, they got
There's
yellow
already
ceiling
4 lights
tiles.
out on the sign. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get approached by crack when I leave this dollar store.
Yeah, you got yellow puddles on the ceiling. It's like they installed them that way.
Well, that's where they save the money. They like all the ones that other businesses replace. They buy all the ones that have the water damage on them.
Yeah, we got a deal on this carpet from it's it's like the one with all the little boomerangs on it from like the movie theater that closed down.
That's how I feel about CVS. It's like the really scary looking carpet that you know is repurposed from somewhere else. You're like,
Like
how
church
long
carpet.
in here? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Our
CVS
church
is
was interesting though. Yeah, go ahead.
CVS is Dollar General at Whole Foods prices because
Again,
everything's
the
expensive.
comparisons. My God, that was spot on. What the hell?
Was your church, was it like an old place?
So that's how it started off as. So when we first started there, we just had like the regular school building, and then there was like the auditorium attached to it. It had like the old organ set up across the back. It had like the baptismal that was somehow placed in the wall. It had like the choir area that could like be broken down. There was a whole like backstage area type of thing, but it could fit like maybe 200 people. Like it was pretty small. I don't know what kind of money they were making or how, but they had an expansion that they did. It was an auditorium mixed with like a basketball court, and they had a big baptismal, so it was all connected. It was like a hardwood basketball floor with big bleachers behind it. And then every Sunday people would bring out and set up chairs on the basketball court. The hoops would go up, and then they had a big stage where they would have the pastor start from. They even had like the modesty railing for the people up in the choir, and it was just super weird, and it was way too nice for the amount of people that we had in that church. Like there was something going on. Like the 10% that we're given is not funding all of this. Like there's no way. There's no way that pastor is getting paid what he's getting paid, and we also have enough money for this giant ass building.
The
No
church
way.
is laundering money for drug dealers.
Yeah, I was gonna say they got in early on Doge. They beat you to it, Casey.
Oh my God! Isn't Doge down to like 0.00001 or something like that? Something
Casey
crazy.
probably hasn't
don't
looked in
care.
a while.
I remember one of my friends.
It has 2 less zeros than the Trump coin, whatever that one is.
I was cackling at you sharing those the Trump NFTs. I was dying laughing. Fucking phenomenal. They were
So
so funny.
ridiculous.
My friend briefly got me into like he first tried to get me into like not NFTs. He tried to get into like some kind of crypto, and I was like, nah, I don't really want to. But then he gave me $70. He was like, here, download this app, use this money, buy this NFT. It drops at 8 in the afternoon. Go download this app, go buy this thing. So I bought it. I still have it. It's worth maybe 25 cents now. And I spent my friend's $70, and I didn't sell it at the correct time, apparently. So it's just sitting in this app, and it's like a Deadpool Christmas thing. And I will never touch it again.
I like that, like, take this money, buy this NFT, sell it the right time, and if you don't make money on it, it's because you're bad at this, and I was smart the entire time.
Exactly. He made some money on it. Like he made maybe a couple $100, but he basically was like, here, take this money, buy it, sell it, give me my $70 back, and whatever. Like you're gonna make a couple $100 on this, so you get to keep that. And it never went past $70, so I just kind of let it sit there, and now my friend is $70 in the hole. Sorry, buddy.
My brother-in-law got into crypto, and he ended up getting this coin because a friend of his friend made like 30 grand on it.
Yeah, there's
and
a possibility for
so
it.
he got into it, but then it was going up while he had it, going up, and then it dipped, and everyone was like, look, this is a temporary dip, it's going to go back up. And everyone was convinced, we'll just keep holding it, it's going to go up. And it went down, and then it went up a little bit, and then like, yeah, here we go, and then it went down, and now it's now he's probably lost money on it. I haven't checked where it's at this point, but it was just like, God, that is not that did not pan out for you. And if he cashed out when he could have, because it was over like $300 or $400 a coin.
Yeah.
And now I just pulled it up. It's worth 100 now, but I think he might have got into it at like he
Which
got
one
into it
is
when it was over 100, so that's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
which one is it?
that's
This
it's
is Quant.
Oh yeah, okay.
that's
Oh, to be smart enough to play a market
yep.
bubble
I think that's what's weird about it. It's
instead of
like
being a rube that's on the other side when it pops, like I am every time.
actually, I guess Quant is looking
Better.
actually better than I thought. Oh no, that's not that great. Because the USD on the side is going up $1 at a time. So it's that graph is not that interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like if that's what's weird about calling it a currency is like a
Yeah,
currency is used to buy things. Like how do you call it a currency when everyone's intention for it is to like buy low, sell high, and then never actually buy anything with it?
yeah. They're the amount of times I've heard people just say like, just hold it. It's gonna be okay. Just hold it. I'm like, all right, shut the fuck up.
Bunch of those
To me, it's
people are
literally
in
it just
big
feels like
trouble.
Vegas. Like
Yes, yeah,
you go to Vegas and you're like, oh, I'm doing great. Let's fucking keep going. Let's more. Let's ante up, man. And as soon as it starts coming down, you're like, no, no, no. It was doing okay. If I just keep going with it, it'll be fine. And then it just tanks. You lose thousands of dollars. You're like, well, learned my lesson.
yeah.
Yeah, you really have to be a senator to make money on the market.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
fair.
boy. So
We went on a wild
what
tangent.
happened with yeah, well, that
Damn.
happens. So what was the breaking point for you where I mean, I guess where are you now? Like are you
Mm.
still spiritual in some way or another? Are you completely out? Like what happened there?
I think I've gone back and forth. When I was kind of like 16, 17, I was all just, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want this in my life at all. I was just kind of there because I had to be. When my parents got fired, I doubled down on that. I'm like, fuck all of this. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with the church. I'm never going to church again. I don't want to listen to anything that these people have to say, especially fuck that church. And that's just where my head was at for a while because I was still in my angsty like I don't want anything to do with you people. Um, at this point, I think I've kind of gotten to like the agnostic area where it's kind of like aliens. You're like, there could be a god, there could be aliens. I don't know. It's a possibility. It makes sense in some things, but I think that's kind of where I'm at now. Like I don't think there's any proof otherwise. I don't think that I'm super cool for like being super atheist. Like I don't think talking down on someone who believes there's a god is making me a cool person. It's just I think where I'm at is like just be a fucking nice person. Just respect people. Don't be an asshole. And I feel like that's what we're here to do in the first place. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think if a god is real, I don't think he wants you to fire people from your staff because your kids listen to metal or because your sister went to go visit her boyfriend. It's it's all just a bunch of bullshit and every denomination thinks they have it right. I don't think any of them do. I think it's all just a mishmash of everything. I think that it's just kind of just be a good person. Make someone else's day better. Make the world better for anybody. I think that's really all that it kind of boils down to.
Yeah, it feels like the like there it's like there's always the back and forth
Yeah.
on the way out. It's like you almost have to go through that angry,
Yeah.
this is all fucked up phase, and then you see people doing it right. It's like it you can see people doing it fine. You can see people doing it bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's it is weird. Like when you have to navigate that, and then but landing on the general agnosticism, it's like it's once if you're in it and you feel like that sense of spirituality, like you really legitimately feel that connection and feel like you're connecting to
Yeah.
God or a higher power, and then that once that like fizzles out, what I feel like I keep hearing from people, and I think even some of my own, despite where I'm at or what I might say, I believe it's like I feel like when you lose that, where you're like, God, I remember sitting down and feeling like I was really connecting to this like this source,
Yeah.
and then when you like lose that, like it seems like people like I don't even know how you get that back. Like
I don't think
You
you
got
can,
yeah,
honestly.
it feels like you can't. Oh, well, I guess I'm sure there's someone going through a church right now talking about how they got to rock bottom and then, they got saved again. So like there's the outliers, but
Yeah.
for people who are genuinely searching and trying to be that aren't they're not just trying to throw everything out or keep everything. They're on a legitimate path of like searching for meaning and
Yeah.
truth. It's like when you do lose that feeling of or that connection, you look back on it and even feel like, was I just hyping myself up? Was this it's like a group think? It's like it it ends up being hard to like reconnect to that. And some people end up shifting into like something like, oh, let me meditate, and
Yeah.
that grounds me. Maybe people find more grounding practices than like that constant like wanting to that euphoric. I think that's probably what I'm trying to get at, is like that connection that feels euphoric.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels looking back on my experiences, it feels like I had to manufacture it. Even in my private life, the things that I did to get to that point were very manufactured. And that doesn't necessarily mean there's no truth in it or that there's something wrong with someone achieving that what they perceive as a connection through those means. But uh, all I know is that I feel like sometimes I miss that, even though I don't think I have any desire to try to recreate it anymore.
Yeah. Because it feels so real when you're in it.
Yeah.
Like even as like a 13, 14-year-old, like I could feel what it was, and I could feel that it did something to me. Like I could see all these people around me, especially like they all feel this. I should be feeling this. And I remember that there were brief periods where I would get that like connection. But then a lot of the times it was more so like, well, they're getting this connection. I don't really feel like I have anything. Like I can just kind of pretend. So now I get these the Facebook memories from 12 years ago.
Yep.
I'm like it's something like trust in God, he'll carry you through it. And I'm like, oh God. Delete. It's just like things like that. It takes me back to like that was either super genuine and I really felt like that at the moment, or I saw other people posting things like that and I'm like, well, I can't be the only one not doing it. So it was either like a product of being around those type of people and having that be my whole life, or it was genuine. I think it was a little bit of both for a while.
Yeah.
Hey, that beats my Facebook memories where it's just like statuses of me being like, Obama has this country on a death march towards communism.
I actually just checked mine to see if I said anything good uh, on this day years ago, and unfortunately, I don't. It's just a picture of my cats. But
Aw. Well, all right. Now I gotta check.
yeah,
Hang on.
let's see what you got,
Yeah.
Casey. You gonna check yours, Casey? Why
I
not?
don't think I have access to my old profile anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's
I
right.
killed the old me.
Do you guys do you want to hear one thing that got me in a lot of trouble from Facebook back in the church days?
Oh, yes.
So it's very blasphemous. So if people are not looking to hear this, that's fine. They can skip past. But when I was like 16 or 17, I was really kind of getting on my way out. Like I wasn't into church at all, and I was just hanging out with my friends from Cold Stone and just becoming more into punk and that kind of stuff. Like I was real big into ska for a little bit. There was definitely a ska phase there. So
You made it
so
through those dark days.
oh yeah. That was my second show ever, was a Real Big Fish show. That was my first
Yeah.
my first mosh pit was Real Big Fish. But so I remember one of my friends, like he was basically my best friend, took me to all these shows. I remember I sent him a photo of, it was picture this in your mind's eye, if you will. It was Jesus having sex with Jesus, and the caption was Jesus fucking Christ. And
I've seen that one.
I posted it on my friend's wall, and I didn't understand how Facebook worked at that time. I got a talking to from my father. My grandma saw it.
Oh,
My
no.
dad. And my dad took me on a walk. He was like, you know what I'm talking to you about, right? I'm like, I have no idea.
Like, I wish I just looked at porn instead. God damn it.
Oh, there are plenty of stories about that too. Like that was the whole. Oh well, I mean, this isn't necessarily anything to do with church, but 13 years ago, I posted a story that says "Coming to you live from the Mac store." Woo! This is why.
That's
That's why
as
I don't go
dark
on
as the
Facebook
ska
anymore.
part.
Amazing.
I
Yikes!
feel like a mosh pit at a ska show is probably just dudes like curtsying and tipping their fedora to each other.
Oh God,
You know?
I remember being front row for like maybe a song until this like 6'4", like 250-pound guy was grinding up against me. I'm like, you can have this spot. That's fine.
You didn't let him finish.
He
Like
may
a
have.
dog.
I was none the wiser if he did, but
Got a little Mississippi leg hound in him.
oh my God.
So okay, so we got to talk about music because you're the deaf
Yeah.
little ninja. Like
Music
what's
and ninja shit.
Uh-huh. That's
So-
that's the one thing that kind of like makes me a little bit different. That was the big reason why I wanted to go with it.
So did you start with Christian rock, or did you never really go down that road?
Oh no, that was what we started with. So, when we moved to Venezuela, the only thing that my dad really had for us was Point of Grace. Do you guys remember that band? It was like the
Yep.
all female. Yep. So we had Point of Grace. Had a little bit of a beat to it, and that was about it. My uncle was the bad influence. He got us into Skillet.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
it's
So
got to be
he-
old days Skillet. You remember what album?
Yes. So he got us into what was the one that had like the snake on it? The like yellowish album cover. Do you guys remember that one?
Oh,
It was like one of their first ones where it was still like super Jesus-y and like very, very
Oh.
let me
So
see.
I
I'm gonna
didn't
pull up
actually.
this.
I did not get into Skillet.
really.
Yeah, I missed
That
the
was one
boat
of
on
the
that.
first rock bands that I actually like listened to. So the first album that I heard was Comatose. That was like the first one. Like my
Yes.
uncle gave us the live CD version of that, and I thought it was the greatest thing. Collide. That's
Collide.
the one.
That's a
has
good album.
It was a pretty good album. Like it wasn't bad, but I remember like just sitting and listening to that album over and over and over again. The live version, because that was like all that we had. I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. My dad was like, don't tell your mom. Like, don't let her know that you listen to this. Because my dad was like big into Van Halen when he was growing up. Like he was a rocker. Like there's a photo of him in a leather jacket and aviators at PCC. I'm like, there's no way that you were just the good Baptist boy. Like there's no way. So he was like
riding one of those real boxy like 80s crotch rockets, and it's like Highway to the Danger Zone playing in his Walkman.
he was telling me about a friend who used to have like the big Van Halen logo painted on the hood of his car, and they used to like go. He said that this friend would go follow them around. I'm like, somehow I feel like you were that friend. I have a feeling, but yeah. So like it was Skillet at the start. From there, it kind of like slowly devolved into like I think the extent of that was really just like anything Christian related with that was generally around Skillet. Like that was all we had in Venezuela. So by the time we were moving back to the States, my oldest sister was finding things like All American Rejects and Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance and things like that. So I had like a twinge of that. I remember listening to the Folie à Deux album by Fall Out Boy just like 1,000 times over and over again.
Yeah.
So
I loved Fall Out Boy for a minute.
oh my God, they were fantastic.
Up until like they broke up and like I think it was their last album. I was like, meh. But then they broke up, and then I thought their legacy was great, and then they came back and were just like a manufactured pop band, and I fucking was like, this is
like,
a
this
cash
sucks.
grab. Whatever. I mean, he made his bag, so I'm not gonna
do what you got to do.
throw shade too much. But
Fall Out
me,
Boy walked, so Imagine Dragons could run.
You goddamn right. So there was like that brief period where I would just like steal my sister's iPod and listen to All American Rejects and My Chemical Romance and stuff like that. But I gotta hand it to my older sister. Like she found things like she found Tooth and Nail Records
Yeah.
So she would get like letters and like emails from them with like the free sampler packs, and she would like go to the library and get CDs. Like she would rent CDs, burn copies, bring them back, and she would just have this collection of music that no one in the family knew about except for me. And the tooth and nail stuff was wild because it would be like Emery, it would be the Classic Crime, it would be Under Oath, and like all these like just wild bands that was so far removed from anything that I've ever heard before. Just the craziest thing in the world. So it kind of went from that, and then my friends showing me bands like MXPX and Bless the Fall and all that kind of stuff. It eventually just turned into Slipknot, Disturbed, all this kind of stuff, and just got worse and worse over time. My Pandora playlist got more and more intense. I remember there was a girl that I liked when I was like 15 or 16, and her mom was like picking us up from the mall, and I had just discovered Slipknot's Untitled album, and I thought it would be a great idea to impress her by putting this on, and never heard from her again. It was like, I forget the name of the song. I think it was the one where they just say fuck like 60 times in a row. So that's what I thought would get me in. Wasn't going to get me laid. I didn't quite understand the concept of that yet, but I was
so funny. Did you play it in the car like that her mom was driving?
Oh yeah.
What a nightmare, dude. You fucked up big.
She was probably so like nervous that whole time.
Oh my god, it was that was me coming out of my still kind of homeschool phase.
Yeah, the lack of social awareness is like, this will be cool. This will make me look cool. It's like,
oh yeah, I
wish you could like, I wish you could zoom out and watch yourself.
Oh
be
no,
yourself.
That's why I don't think about this stuff anymore. I'm like, I was an absolute animal back then. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this. I try to focus on me now. I feel like I'm kind of okay. I'm semi-adjusted, but that's why this has been like so out of my head for so long, is like I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want it to be a part of my life. Like it, for a long time, it just didn't exist. Like the whole Venezuela thing just wasn't a thing. So it feels like a lifetime ago to like kind of revisit all this stuff. And that's why like I really, really enjoy this show. Like I love going back through your guys' episodes and listening, because it's all this stuff that like, oh, I remember that. I remember something like this. I remember them talking about things like this. Like it's just such a weird blast from the past that I've been blocking out of my brain for a really long time. So it's a good thing. I think I needed to revisit all this stuff to kind of realize.
Been fun to be able, it's been fun being able to help people unlock some of their most cringe memories.
Yep. That's a lot of what it comes down to. And we didn't know it was cringe at the time, but god damn it. Here we are.
Yeah, most of it, not anyways.
So how'd you end up getting into the American Ninja Warrior stuff? I think that's really neat, and like you watch it on TV and you everyone thinks like, how do you fucking even get there? Also, I think everyone watches that on TV and well, I feel like I've only ever really watched more the beginning stages of it. I know the obstacle courses like really ramp up and get even more and more difficult as time goes on. And but I'm like, I feel like people have this like self-confidence where they watch it and they're like, look, I know I'm out of shape, but if I really started working out, I think in a couple years I could probably do some of that. You know, I think I might be able to do that. And then
like Cheetos in their belly button, like I could do that.
They're real Kreischer about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I take my kids to the playground and do the monkey bars one time and wake up the next day feeling like I just got hit by a truck. And I'm like, oh, couldn't.
It's been a journey. It's been just the weirdest thing. And this is me getting into this is the perfect example of why you just need to just try stuff, because you have no idea what could be that thing. You're like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like you have no idea. Yeah. So basically what happened was my older sister used to watch G4 all the time and used to watch the original Sasuke, which was like the Japanese version of it. Then we started watching the original seasons of American Ninja Warrior, and like where it was still fresh. The hardest thing was jumping to a cargo net and climbing over. And at one point, my dad and I were watching it. He was like, I feel like you'd be kind of good at that. I'm like, I'm long and tall. I can reach stuff. It might be okay. So I'm like, all right. I didn't know like how I would do that. I didn't know how I'd go about it. So just on a whim, I looked up Ninja Warrior near me. I didn't know if there were actually gyms. I didn't know like what it was. I thought you just kind of had to practice on your own. You had to be good at parkour or something.
Go to
So-
the local dog obstacle course and run that for a while.
Just like hop through the poles. So the craziest thing is like I looked it up and there was a gym near me, and it was near me. I used to deliver blood and urine specimens for the VA clinics for a while.
Your
So
own
I
or
was-
other people's?
Other people's. I'm not a veteran, and I appreciate those that are, but I've been all over the place with work, and I used to have to drive from Ocala to Orlando, do these deliveries and deliver blood to like the main hub here in Orlando, and then I would commute back home. It paid better than any other job I had, so I'm like, fuck it, I guess we're doing this. So on my commute home, I found that there was a ninja gym nearby. I checked it out one day after I got off work, drove by. I went in. People just kind of gave me these weird looks. I had talked to someone who came over from the class. I was like, hey, so I'm kind of looking to get into like ninja stuff and just kind of want to check it out. He was like, oh, you don't want to go here. You want to go to, there's like an actual ninja gym that's opening up. I'm like, oh, is this not a ninja gym? He's like, well, we do a lot of ninja here, but it's like kind of CrossFit too. I'm like, okay, that's a great way to, like, there's someone inquiring about your business. You don't
Yeah,
think
he's a
you wanna,
salesman.
he's doing great. But I appreciated it. He sent me to another place that was probably like a half hour away, kind of towards like the middle of Orlando. This is just straight up Ninja Warrior obstacles, none of that CrossFit bullshit. There was just one employee and the owners, and that was it. And the employee was a guy that's kind of become one of my best friends now. His name is RJ Roman. He's been on the show for like 5-6 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was one of the 5 people to make it to the last obstacle last year on the show and climb the rope. So like he's good.
Yeah.
So I
And
went
he
to
let
this-
you pay him in blood and urine.
That's right. I would deliver his blood and urine specimens for him.
Couple of bags go missing here and there. No one will notice. It's honestly a perfect like way to. Well, I guess you'd be daylighting if you were a vampire, but I think for a vampire, it's a solid gig.
That'd be a pretty good job. The pee is extra, man. You got those kinks as a vampire. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, if you gotta trust TikTok, it's
There's
It's
an ad
good
for
good
that on
for you.
Pet
You
Life
gotta
for
drink
sure.
your own pee,
Mm-hmm. God.
or that, or like drop it into your eyes, or give yourself a fucking urine enema. It's shit's
That's
getting
like-
wild now.
One of my favorite podcasts is Your Mom's House, and
Oh,
the amount
yeah.
of times they bring up TikToks of people drinking their urine, it's just
Yep.
I figured that may have been like maybe 2 people in the whole country, but like it's every week. They're like, check out this person who also drinks their piss. You're like, God damn it. But
We keep
Again,
them
It's
high and
always
tight.
white women too.
yeah, it's
Sorry,
always
white women, but you're the only ones drinking pee.
or it's just like dudes who are way too muscular than they should be. They're like, this has holistic benefits. You're like, shut the fuck up. Like, you just do steroids. Like, just fucking stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Eat
not
your liver and
food.
shut up.
It's not the pee. Shut up, Liver King. So I went to this ninja gym, and this dude, like, there was nobody there. They literally just opened. I met him. He looked like me, covered in tattoos, long hair, played in a band. I'm like, this is just fucking godsend. I'm like, I can't get any better than this. So started working with him. And I just moved all around Florida during that time. So I didn't train as much during those first 2 years. But when I moved back to Orlando was when I really kind of started taking it seriously. I live like 20 minutes from the gym now, so I can just kind of go train whenever I'm free. And now I coach classes there for the last 2 seasons I've been on the show, because I'm able to like spend more time with it. My first 2 submission videos were dog shit, so I actually like understood the way that I'm supposed to make a submission video, and I'm hoping we get back again next year, because it's
Yeah.
like that's the one. This is the one thing in my life where I'm like, this is it. I'm like, this is what I want to be doing. Whether I'm the best at it or not, I'm not. But I'm like, this is something that I do enjoy doing. I love being on the show. I love being the edgy guy who has makeup on and scaring the children. Like, I think that's just fun. I think it's like, I'm never going to win the $1 million. Like that's kind of what it comes down to. But at the same time, I really enjoy just going out and swinging on some stuff. It's the one thing in my life where I'm like, this is the best.
It's sick. You
That's
get to
awesome,
like
man.
participate in the competition of it.
Yeah.
Enjoy. I think even that headspace of like, you're not there to win $1 million. You're just there because you love it is what's, I think, really particularly awesome. It's like, I think so for the listeners, we've already given you the intro at this point if you're listening to it, but you talked about the submission videos and your first 2 being bad. You had mentioned picking your name in your lane based on trying to find a way to make yourself stand out. So why don't you highlight that a little bit? Because that's what people always do. Any reality show you watch where people like have to do any sort of whether it's like God, what's the one where people like slide down the giant thing at the beginning and then
is that Wipeout?
It wasn't Wipeout. I think was like comical. This was a less comical one, but either way, it's like they always
Most
like
extreme elimination challenge.
That one was also very funny. I don't know that God, what was that on? Was that
G4?
Yeah, that was a G4,
something like that.
G4 show.
G4 was hits, man. I loved G4.
But yeah, people always pick like a lane, like a personality, like on this or that, or it kind of. I imagine that's what helps you get some airtime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people just go a little bit too far with it. I think 90% of the time it's just, look at me, I'm wearing this on my head, I'm gonna be this. It's just like, it's way over the top. Like, I'm gonna wear a fish on my head and that I'm gonna be the fish ninja. You're like, oh, all right, it's just like they're trying to pick something to be unique, but being unique doesn't make you special.
Does anyone wear the Borat unitard?
I fucking wish, and I think I might have to do that this season now.
Please do.
I'll send you mine.
Wait, hold on. Do we have pictures of Casey in this?
They're somewhere.
Oh, oh shit. This podcast just got way more interesting. I want to dive deep into this.
Yeah. Not on U.S. soil.
All right. That's fair. But yeah, basically with this show, like the only way that you're going to get airtime and get on the show in the first place is you have to have an interesting story, whether it's a sob story or like overcoming adversity type of story, or you have to have a shtick, and that thing is going to be your whole personality the entire time you're on the show. It's never going to change. So basically, my first 2 videos, my whole story was about my father and like the stuff we went through with the church and what he's dealing with now as an adult with his Parkinson's and dealing with that kind of stuff. Like, that was my whole story. Like, I just kind of had a sob story and that was it. Turns out I'm not great at making videos, and I needed practice, and that wasn't enough to get me on the show for the first 2 years. But the season after, I'm like, I'm just gonna go full in on like the death metal thing, because that was my one thing where I'm like, I don't feel like I'm compromising. I don't feel like I'm being cheesy, because I'm like, this is something that I genuinely love and I want to be in music. I want to be a part of this. So I'm like, this is where I feel like I'm not compromising on anything. I'm not just picking a shtick to be on a TV show. I'm like, this is genuinely who I am. So that was the one thing that I felt like would work well. So my first time going out, I had black fingernails, eye makeup on. Second time I went out for semifinals, just went full corpse paint. People were like, what the fuck? They were like, because the person who initially called me was like, we're just excited to have people that are kind of edgy on the show. I put that in my like description. I'm like, I feel like we need something that's a little less like happy-go-lucky and need to have a little bit of a little edge on there. And
Do you get to pick music they play to come out? That'd be fun.
unfortunately, no. But one thing that I'm actively working on is, I think I mentioned this to one of you guys over Instagram as we were kind of like talking about it, but I've always wanted to sing and I've always wanted to like be in a band. So I'm working with a vocal instructor now and we're kind of building a cover song. So this is my avenue of like kind of putting my voice out there and overcoming just me being afraid of singing in front of people. So we're putting this cover song out in the next month or two to just get me comfortable with it. But my friend RJ, who has a band, they put his music behind some of his videos on the TV show and he still gets royalties for that. So like if it's something
cool.
that you create and that you own, then you can use it. But other than that, they kind of just toss whatever generic rock.
Duty-free new metal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's like a puddle of mud cover or something.
There it
It's
is.
not great. But that's the goal for this season is I want to have something out that I can have kind of behind me as a track and show that I'm like kind of growing, not just me because I like metal, I'm just putting my face paint on. It's like this is what I like to do and what I want to pursue. So it's the storyline progresses.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want to see every year.
When do you try? When's like do you have to try out again or resubmit or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So every year doesn't matter if you've been on the show for like 10 years, like you always have to reapply. So it's basically like filling out a job application. It's just more personal. You're saying like what you do for work, how long you've been an athlete, what sports you played, have you ever been a hero, what is the craziest thing you've ever done in your life, what's your athletic accomplishments, like all this kind of stuff. And then you have to make a 2 to 3 minute video talking about you. And what that video is they just want to see that you're good on TV. They don't give a fuck about your story. As long as you can be exciting and like fun to watch for 2 minutes, they're like, okay, then we want them on TV because that's what it is. It's a reality TV show. Like nobody really cares about how amazing you are at Ninja. Like some of the best people, they will not get shown because they're just boring. Like they're great at Ninja, but there's no personality. So the thing that they want to see, is it's a TV show. Like they're not going to put boring people up there. Like they want to have something exciting. So that's what really set it aside. When I realized that's what I was missing, I'm like, I just need to be more exciting and be who I am, but kind of step it up a little bit. So that's what I think really sets it aside. And submission videos have gone out. The deadline was the 16th. So we don't find out until like end of January. So there's a long waiting period where we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs, hoping, praying to whatever God we believe in that something will come out of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Dude, I can't wait to fingers crossed that you'll be on this season because I'll definitely be. I've never it's one of those things that it's on and if it's on and you turn it on, you always are like, this is really fucking cool. I love watching it, but like
you don't think about it otherwise.
Yeah, I don't. But now I will be, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So keep us posted on that, man.
Absolutely. And that the last season, I feel like they always keep the last season on Hulu because there was a whole bunch of scandal going on a couple of years ago. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that.
But I don't think so.
Yeah. So there was a gentleman who was having relations with an underage girl and he won one of the seasons. So they had to wipe everything that involved him. So you can't find anything. You can't find seasons like 3 through 11 on YouTube. You can't find it on Peacock. No streaming services you can find them on. So they just wiped it all. But Hulu
Crystalia of obstacle courses.
Exactly. The whole Crystalia thing was insane anyway. But you can always find like the last season on Hulu. And I had a couple minutes of airtime and that was kind of exciting. So we're hoping for something more this year. I feel ready. I feel confident. I feel like comfortable with what I have. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
What is the worst thing? Like the worst obstacle that you have to do?
Anything where you have to like carry something with you. I have two of my least favorite. We have to carry something with you, which is like you bring a bar with you places. Like
Oh yeah.
one obstacle that I fell on last year in qualifiers was they had this big wheel and there's little notches on the wheel. So you would hop the bar up, it would move the wheel forward. You'd have to hop it up again, move the wheel forward.
Insane.
And then you'd have to hop it over like a foot long gap in the wheel. So if you missed, you just went straight into the water. And that's what I did. So anything you have to move, and then cliffhangers where you have like an inch of space you have to kind of like shimmy across. And I have gargantuan fingers, so it's a lot harder for me to just hang by little bits of finger. Those are my two least favorite things. But
You need these little smokies, man.
I can't explain to you how upsetting it is with all of my friends who are like 5'6", 5'7". Their hands are like half the size of mine, and they just they're good. They don't feel tired. They don't feel exhausted. I go across like a foot, and I'm like pumped out. I'm like, I can't move my hands. It's so unfair.
Here we are, natural athletes, you know. Very dangerous over short distances.
Yeah, you guys build muscle a lot easier. It's upsetting. I have a 5'4", and her lats are like just gigantic. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I've worked for like 7 years to build whatever this is and 2 years of training. And I'm like, God damn it. We're not there.
Well, I don't know if you've seen Tim Lambesis' transformation, but
Oh my God.
you could always, follow in his footsteps.
The road to success. That's what I call
Yeah,
it.
try to kill your wife and then just work out in prison. You're good.
But you're good because you're not married, so you don't have a wife to kill, and you don't have kids. Yeah, as far as I know. Maybe you do.
They really
No,
complicate a
not.
murder plot.
Yeah. Steroids, I don't know. They just might go a long way. I'm not advocating for them, but I'm obviously promoting them. Is there a difference? I don't think so.
Try the urine
think
first.
so.
That's my advice.
Yeah, the urine therapy might work better. I prefer to keep my dick and balls the size that they're at right now. We don't want to shrink them anymore.
I did just see a video of a person, wearing a trash bag and then collecting their sweat and drinking it afterwards. So I think that might help you too.
Oh my God!
Oh, which
Balenciaga
ad was that?
Jackass.
It was wild. It was like at least like a Coke bottle's worth of sweat too, right? And he just right down the gullet.
That's what almost killed Martin Lawrence.
Oh, he drank his own sweat?
That what a stupid reference, but he passed out running in like a snowsuit in the middle of LA or something like that, trying to cut weight for a movie.
There's nothing I hate more than that. Like people who go just way extra to sweat even harder when they're working out. I'm like, if you're doing it properly, I promise you don't need to wear like a suit that looks like a trash bag to sweat even more. I'm like, you don't need it.
And you're just losing water weight. You're going to get that back after you drink a glass of water. I mean, maybe it elevates your heart rate if you're trying to I don't know. It just seems
there are better ways
excessive.
To do that killing yourself.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Plus, you smell like summer camp duffel bag.
Oh God.
Well, dude, it's been great meeting you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this. Again, like this is just awesome to be here. I love kind of revisiting this stuff. I love listening to you guys. It just brings back memories, not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but it's fun to revisit all this kind of stuff. And it means a lot. Thank you guys so much for having me on here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.